Welcome back, everyone, to the C Morning Show. We're at the halfway point of our program, which is leading us to our first discussion of the day. And after successfully hosting the G20 presidency in November last year, Indonesia is now honored again to be the chair of ASEAN that is planned for May and September of this year.
That's right, and to support the agenda, Indonesian Foreign Affairs Ministry, Indonesian Youth Diplomacy, or IYD, was entrusted with the job of organizing the side event, which is the ASEAN Youth Agenda 2023 this September, where youth from ASEAN as well as invited guests from the Indo-Pacific region will gather to develop policy recommendations for heads of state.
Prior to this, Indonesian Youth Diplomacy had successfully hosted the official youth engagement group of the G20, which was the Y20 summit last year. And now we're going to learn more about the objectives of the 2023 ASEAN Youth Agenda and other major topics that will be discussed in the forum. We have with us now ASEAN Youth Agenda 2023 co-chair Angelo Wijaya. Good morning, Angelo. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Angelo.
Good morning, Paul and Karina.
Great to have you here.
Joining us.
So, could you start by telling us more about the 2023 ASEAN Youth Agenda?
Yeah, so as you rightly mentioned, right, Indonesia hosts ASEAN this year after successfully hosting G20 last year.
Right.
So we, the young people, we're interested to contribute more to Indonesia's chairmanship in ASEAN this year. So ASEAN Youth Agenda is basically the platform for young people to gather, not only to have a dialogue with each other, but also to provide policy recommendations to ASEAN leaders.
Okay.
So yeah, that's basically what we will do in the next 1 year. We will support Indonesia's chairmanship. And on top of that, as you mentioned as well, we are coming from an organization called Indonesian Youth Diplomacy, and we were the host of Y20 last year.
Okay, so this is going to be somewhat similar to Y20, where it's going to be more centered or focused on those issues that are going to affect the youth as well.
Yes, yes.
A lot of those same topics, I assume, will be followed up upon from the Y20 as well.
Yes, there will be some resemblance in the topics.
Right.
Okay. Now, what would you say the topics are for this following? Obviously, you said it's similar to the previous events. What topics would you be bringing up at this meeting specifically?
Yeah, so now we have 5 topics that we have already prepared. The first one is digital literacy and inclusion. The second one is food security.
Okay.
Third one is health. Fourth is future of education and work. And the fifth one is energy transition. So these topics are very closely linked to the ASEAN chairmanship this year.
Right.
But also you can see some resemblance to the priorities of G20 last year.
Yeah, and it's some topics that are really common and much needed awareness that's happening around the world.
Very much so. So we do know that from time to time when these summits take place, a lot of it is introducing maybe some new agendas, but also a lot of it is following up on old agendas as well. So what are your hopes that for this year's summit in regards to how much will be followed up on, especially for those topics that have been discussed and are on the forefront of these campaigns?
Yeah, so as you rightly mentioned, right, Paul, last year at Y20, Indonesia sort of spearheaded the discussion at the G20. At Y20, we supported the discussion on digital transformation, on the future of work. So we hope to see the continuity on those topics, but also we hope to see more innovative solutions because the G20 and ASEAN are 2 different schemes of cooperation. Okay. And also in ASEAN this year, we hope to have representatives not only from major powers, but also developing countries, middle powers like ASEAN, but also Pacific Island countries because we will invite them as well to be observers in our events.
Very nice.
Right, very, very cool. And you were also a delegate at the 2021 Y20 summit in Italy. And now you hold the position as co-chair of the upcoming event. You hold a lot of hats here, Angelo. Now, what prompted you to take on this part? And can you maybe tell us a little bit about your background, what you study in school, and how it got you to where you are now?
Yeah, Karina. So I graduated from UGM. I studied international relations.
Okay.
I graduated about 4 years ago.
Very young, so you're about 25 now.
Yeah. I think since uni, since my undergrad years, I have always been interested in diplomacy,
Right.
international relations, foreign policy, but also the role of young people in it, how young people could
Yeah.
take an active role in it. And especially the fact that young people often bring fresh perspective,
Yeah.
innovative solutions to problems where probably the older generation
Right.
find deadlocks on. So that was what prompted me to basically get into IYD at first, to be the
Right.
Indonesian delegate for Y20. But also there are some other experiences when I was in uni, right?
Yeah.
I attended the Interpol General Assembly, the APEC Summit in Vietnam. So these sort of experiences sort of made me realize that there are roles for young people to play.
Right. No.
And through my roles at ASEAN Youth Agenda and also Y20 last year,
Yeah.
I hope to foster and also facilitate more young people to also have the same opportunity to
Right.
impact or make a dent on the G20, on ASEAN. and
Right.
their-
And bring fresh solutions to old problems, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's actually get back to the ASEAN Youth Agenda. Speaking of the agenda that's going to take place, it's going to be in 6 months' time, I believe. With the G20, there was a lot of lead-up events or side events leading up to the main summit itself. Will we be seeing more of the same here at the ASEAN Youth Agenda as well?
Yeah, Paul, you rightly mentioned that we will have our summit, the Youth Summit
Yes.
in September. But in the lead up to that, we will have a couple of events. We have been preparing for the first one, which will take place in April to May. That will be the ASEAN Youth Innovation Challenge.
Okay, what's that?
So that's basically a competition for young people from
nice.
across ASEAN to discuss both business ideas but also policy innovations. We will
Okay.
present them with problems facing fictional ASEAN countries, and we want them to innovate on how would you think as a business person, or how would you think as a future policymaker on how to innovate solutions for that?
Okay.
There will be in April and May, and then we are thinking to have something in mid-year. That's ASEAN Youth Startup Forum. So we will have that to basically create networks among startups and venture capitals across ASEAN
Oh,
and also the
okay.
partner countries. And the last, definitely the ASEAN Plus Youth Symposium, the Youth Summit that you mentioned,
okay,
where
yeah.
200 young people from across the Indo-Pacific will come to Jakarta, have a dialogue, propose policy recommendations that will be handed over to ASEAN
Wow.
leaders.
So the lead-in events will be held in Jakarta as well?
Yes.
Okay, very much
Very
looking forward
cool.
to that.
Now, Angelo, I want to shift back to you now, just for a little bit, because at such a young age, you know, you're already such an inspiration to many, especially the younger generation. You've achieved so much at 25. I mean, you became the 2018's number one most outstanding student at Gajah Mada University, or UGM, and then you were awarded as the top 3 most outstanding student in the country, in Indonesia, by the Ministry of Research, Technology and Higher Education within the same year.
It's a lot of competition, by the way.
I know, but like it's. I mean, I guess I'm comparing to me when I was his age. I was
Not in the top 3?
not in the top 3 or top 1 in the country. So I mean, tell me so I can just learn a little more about you and your inspiration towards the younger generation. What was the achievement that mattered most to you, and how has it affected your life, or how has it become a fuel for you to just go further and, hey, I want to do more for my country, I want to do more for the younger generation?
No, yeah, I think it's hard to tell which one is the most, right? Like
Yeah.
which one is the most memorable.
They're all just, equally.
Yeah, but I think it's building something is like building a house, right? You start from the bottom, step by
Right.
step. I think all that I did from my undergrad years, it's sort of, they are interconnected with each other. So the fact that I attended the APEC Summit, the fact that I joined the UGM delegation for the Interpol General Assembly, that sort of gives me the platform to compete in Mahasiswa Berprestasi UGM and then Nasional. And the fact that I joined those competitions lead me to my first job at the World
Right.
Bank. And I think these things sort of build up.
Yeah, it's stepping stone for the next
Yes,
thing.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And the fact that I was at the World Bank, that gives me an opportunity to
Right.
become the Y20 delegate. So, as you mentioned, it's it's interconnected. and then how it links to my desire to provide more platforms and to facilitate young people. I think the fact that these events or these opportunities give me the awareness that young people can make a dent. So I feel that it's not just for me. If we give the platform for other young people, I think young people can also make a dent too.
Yeah, they need the access to
exactly.
be able to do that,
Well, we do need pioneers like you to lead the way in order to open those doors as well. Now, I've got a two-part question, and please answer them one at a time. When you were starting to attend school or while you were in school, did you envision your path taking you in this direction, at 25?
No, not at all, Paul.
Okay,
I mean,
caught you off guard.
my dad was a doctor.
Oh, okay.
I mean, when I was a kid, when everyone asked me, what do you want to be when you grow up? I always answer, oh yeah, I want to be like my dad, right?
Of course.
But, things happen. So I decided to apply to UGM, to Hubungan International, and that's how I get here.
Okay, and that was when you kind of made your shift towards what you're doing now. So what would you say to those, because I don't know if it's just Indonesians in general, and I believe that's changing with the newer generations, the later generations, is that, oh, I'll never be able to do that, or I don't know, that would be, a role would be too big for me. What would you say to those that have that kind of thought process, or perhaps have a little bit of inferiority complex that they couldn't do it, but you are proof that you can?
This is interesting in a sense that I feel like I come from a more privileged family, and I have to admit and I have to acknowledge that I come from that. And that sort of gives me the opportunity. But also for other young people, right, I think it's not like super impossible. I think number one, it's the awareness, that you should find something that you enjoy doing.
Okay.
And then if you can do that, I think you will do something with passion better, right? Compared to something that you don't really have passion on. But also number two, I think it's more on how do you explore your environment? How do you, seek opportunities?
Make the most of it, right?
Yes, exactly. And how would you just position yourself in those kind of environments?
Absolutely, and I think opportunities are only great if you take advantage of them, right? I mean, opportunities are around us everywhere. We just have to make sure we recognize them.
All day, every day.
Whenever we can. Right. It's been a very fun and inspirational morning to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time, Angelo. We do appreciate your efforts, and good luck with the ASEAN Youth Agenda this year.
Thank you, Angelo.
Thanks for stopping by. All right, we're going to have a short break here. We have another discussion later on in the program, but before that, we will recap some of our earlier stories from around the world when we return.